Okay, so here's the real plan. Now, I fully admit that I kind of get a little ADD with my projects. Maybe it's because I have too many projects, and I know I do it to myself, but I'm probably not the only one. But I get super inspired to work on one thing, and then I get inspired to work on something else, and I guess it's sort of a hashtag first world problems. But I have another car that I'm super excited to start working on, and I've had it for a while, and I've been wanting to work on it for a while, but like I said, ADD, I bought this thing, I've been working on this thing, my other car has been sitting at my buddy Gary's backyard basically. So here's the plan for this thing. I am basically just gonna slap it together so I can get it out of my garage. What that means is I'm not gonna do all that. Okay, so scratch that. New plan. Told you, ADD, prime example right here. So I got to putting the seat in there and the floor in there, as you saw in the last episode, and when I sat behind where the driver's seat is and held the wheel there, I got so motivated to work on this thing. And I started thinking about it, and what I always tell myself is, Eric, finish your project before you start a new one. That's the biggest part of my problem, is that I get in the middle of doing something, the ADD kicks in, I get inspired to work on something else, and then next thing you know, I don't feel like I'm making any progress because I'm working little bits at a time on so many different projects. And all I do is get overwhelmed by how many projects I have. So I'm going to take my own advice for once and actually get to working on the Hodge Podge before I start the next project. So, new plan. I'm going to pull the body back off of here, start chopping the frame, and getting the body where it's supposed to go, up over the frame, get the rear axle that I want for it so I can do the 4-link, get the motor, everything pulled out of this chassis, and get the other motor in here and get it to where I can actually drive it out of my garage. It's not going to be completely finished because that's just the nature of hot rodding. You're always tinkering with something, and it's a never-ending project basically. But it'll be at a point where I can actually maybe take it to a car show this summer, or just drive it and work on it little bits at a time, but I want to get it to where it's at least roadworthy. So that's the new plan. Okay, so before I lift the body off of the frame, I need to make sure that I take lots of measurements and look for any obstructions, because when I Z the rear part of the frame, it's going to go up inside of the body, and I need to make sure I mark those locations, especially the seat when it's in the all the way back position. I don't want it hitting the frame rails. So the first thing is I'm going to remove these leaf springs, but I need to make sure that this wheel location is correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my calipers here to find the center point on the axle down here. So as you can see, it's right about in the middle of 2.6 inches and 2.7 inches. We'll call that 2.64 inches. So now if I just move my dial down to 1.32, then that'll mark the exact center of the differential. I'm going to make a mark on my caliper, and that's where I'm going to make the mark on the differential to hang the plumb bob to. Just put a tiny little dot.
And all I have hoped for, and all I have dreamed of, it comes down to this. I fought the good fight, I finished the race, I've kept the faith. I'll wait for you.
So now, in order to get these leaf springs off of here, what I'm gonna do is weld a bracket, temporarily tack it on there, so this rear axle is solid in place and won't move when I remove the leaf springs, because the leaf springs are the only thing holding this axle in place right now. Up underneath down here, there's a couple of things that I'm noticing that are probably going to be in the way when I do the Z. So back there, that's a cross member, and that is actually on the back part of the frame that I'm going to end up slicing off, because the back of the sedan, you can see this, that's the back mount of the sedan body. So I think what I'm going to do is, once I lift the body off, I'm going to take that cross member and actually put it right above where this brace that I put for the diff right here. I might do that straight across here and kind of temporarily weld it in there just for extra support for the frame rails so they don't move in any direction. That'll hold that in place for when I do the Z. And then this cross member here is right about where I'm gonna do the Z on the frame. So that's gonna have to go too. You can see right here, this is the back of the floor pan that I made for the seat. Since the frame rails are gonna go up inside the cab, I wanna be able to move the seat all the way back. So I don't want the seat hitting the frame rails. So I'm gonna mark right at the back of where the seat is on the frame rails, so I know that that's as far forward as I can go with the Z notch. So I got the body off of the chassis, and I noticed a couple of issues that I think I'm gonna run into that I need to figure out how to address. The first one is, you can see how the rear of the frame is already humped over the rear axle, and I'm gonna end up doing a couple of pie cuts so that I can Z it more than it already is. And I made some marks to locate where the rear of the seat is gonna be, because I need to Z from where the seat is gonna jump up, and it's right about there. You can kind of see those gray marks right there. So I can't really make a Z beyond that. The issue though that I'm running into is, as you can see, the frame starts to go up right about here, and the back seat is right about here. So this whole swoop up right here is going to be an issue, because the floor pan on the bottom of the Dodge, it goes back a little further, but that's all flat. So it needs to be flat from about here, give or take, probably more like in here. It needs to be flat. So I got to figure out what to do with this section that raises up. It's time to do some more head scratching. A quick little tip: when you're making these marks, and it has to be really precise measurement, I like to use this scribe right here, because this makes a much finer line than the Sharpie. The Sharpie, the line is really inconsistent, and it's about 1/8 of an inch. So if you have to be super precise, then the best thing to do is use a scribe. So I think what I'm gonna do, I scribed a line right there in front of that rivet, so I can get the same exact measurement on the other side over there. So that rivet's in the same spot as that one over there. And measured out to where the frame starts to bend up right here. That's 22 5/8 inches. So I think what I'm gonna do is cut it right here. So cut this section out, and then this part right here, I'm gonna end up cutting out as well, and getting some new metal to just create a whole new frame rail, so it doesn't have this slow swooping deal right here. It'll go flat basically from where I cut it here. It'll go flat all the way to my marks here. So this will be straight across, and then the Z will start from here up to about here or so. And then here's the rear of the frame behind the axle. So I measured 2 1/4 inches in front of that rivet right there. I think that'll give me plenty of space to have it inside the body here.
And all I have hoped for, and all I have dreamed of, it comes down to this. I fought the good fight, I finished the race, I've kept the faith. I'll wait for you. I'll be there at the end. I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting at the end. I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting at the end. I'll wait, I'm waiting, I'm waiting at the end. I'll wait for you. I'll be there at the